fitness isn't hard, the application is hard. So many of people's ailments and issues could be cured if they just ate a little bit better, moved a little bit more, and got us a smidge stronger. It's not about how much can my body handle, it's about what is the optimum dose. What's the right amount in order to elicit the results that I'm looking for.
Yeah, good luck, mate.
If you hear things crashing and banging, mate,
You hear screams.
you know it's taken a turn for the worse.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Jill Spills. This week we're going to be spilling the tea on all things fitness and F45. Today I am joined by the owner of F45 South Wimbledon, Ben Jackson. Steelson.
Listen.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. My wife will be happy that you did correct it to Steelson though.
Safi, I'm so sorry. Oh no. Hello.
How are we?
I'm very well. You?
Yeah, can't complain.
How cool is this?
It's very professional for you, Jill. I won't lie. I'm
know.
liking it. Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I have to say, if it's the first time in probably about 4.5 years, I'm going to have to let you talk without interrupting you.
Yeah, this will be a good test, won't it, to see how long I can speak before you feel the urge and the need to interject.
And I'm not allowed to, so I have to
That's
sit.
it.
Have to
Hostess with the mostess.
I
yeah,
know.
yeah.
This is you're gonna love this. Yeah. So, as I say, you are the owner of F45 South Wimbledon,
Yep.
and you've been now 4.5 years now.
Yeah, about 4.5 years since we opened.
Yes, true.
It's been like 7.5 years since I started the whole venture.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
a wee bit of time.
So, we'll start off with what got you into your fitness journey. Why did you want to be in the profession that you are now in?
So it's a long old story, as all stories with me are. And I guess it starts, I grew up loving sport. I played all sorts of sport when I was young. I was a little skater boy and stuff like that as well. I enjoyed being outside. I enjoyed team sports. I think when I went to university and I studied industrial design, which at the time was something I was passionate about and enjoyed, I kind of found through university my enjoyment for that subject declined and my enjoyment for fitness increased. So I went to Loughborough University, which is like the sporting mecca in Europe, and lots of really high level performing athletes, like, you know, a lot of people that go on to do professional sports of all sorts of different natures go through Loughborough. So it kind of breeds that atmosphere. But really for me, what really got me into like fitness was actually when I did my year out. So my course was a 4-year sandwich, and the third year you go on placement. So I was working in industry for a year, and basically that year taught me two things. I fucking hated industrial design and I loved lifting things up and putting them back down again. So I went from being like kind of the tall, skinny, lanky guy to actually having a bit of muscle on my frame and being super duper strong, because I trained religiously for a year because that was kind of my outlet whilst I was working a job, which was great. It was a really good experience and I did well and enjoyed it by and large. I just knew that wasn't my passion.
Yeah.
So I went back and I finished my degree, did well, but then kind of was like, well, what now? That led to an inevitable decision of, well, let's just leave the UK and go to somewhere hot and sunny, which was Australia. And when I was over there, it was sort of a couple of months of having fun. Like, you're so carefree at that point. You're an adult, so you can do what you want, no bedtime.
Yeah.
But like...
Was you on your own?
I went out with a friend from uni, so he and I went out together. He left about 3 months in. And at that point I stayed, and I'd kind of been muddling with like sales jobs, and I'd sort of ended up in some pyramid scheme sales company. I mean, that was awful. It didn't last. And I was kind of like umming and ahhing. I was like, well, what do I want to do with my life? Like, I don't want to be a designer. Like, you know, I've sort of done a bit of the sales stuff, and I was like, it was like door to door knocking, right. And I just hated it. Like, and it was trying to get people to like buy crap, and it just wasn't me. It was so fake, it was so forced, and I was like, what do I like, what do I enjoy? And I was like, well, I like fitness, I like the gym. So I was like, well, why don't I just see if I can find a part-time job in a gym and see what's going on? And so I started handing out CVs to like gyms in Sydney, and got a call for an interview. And I was like, okay, great, like part-time job, like earn some cash and work out what I'm going to do in my life. So walked into this interview, sat down with these two like, well, this big, massive, like bodybuilder bloke guy, lovely guy, had an interview and thought it went well. They were asking me loads of questions, had good rapport. And it kind of got to the end of the interview and he was like, oh, so really like you, seem like a nice guy. You know, you've got university degree, you're educated, whatever. He's like, how would you like to be a manager of our central Sydney location? I was like, right, what? Like, couldn't believe my luck. So long story short, I ended up managing that gym. And I managed that gym for about 1.5 to 2 years, grew it really well. And basically said to the owners of that franchise I wanted more. So I became their regional manager and I ran their entire network of eight gyms, I think it was. Yeah, 8 gyms in like Sydney. And loved it. It was something that I just really, really enjoyed doing, like being part of the fitness industry. So I started my fitness industry career, shall we say, on the business side of things.
Right.
And what happened is that I kind of saw a lot of PTs come and go through all our gyms. Some were good, a lot of them weren't. You know, they were kind of starting out or whatever, and that's fair enough. Everyone's got their own journey and all the rest of it. But it kind of got to a point where I liked the idea of potentially coaching people. And because I'd had this inherent interest in fitness at this point for like 3 or 4 years, I'm a good little geek and I like to read up on things and like test stuff out and all the rest of it. I decided that actually going down a PT route might be something I wanted to explore. And at the time, F45, the time that I was in Australia, F45 came on the scene. It was new, it was different. Everyone thought it wasn't going to last and it just exploded. And so, again, a long story short, he says 10, 15 minutes in, I decided to come back to the UK to open one.
Right.
And so that's when I came back. February the 1st, I landed back in 2017. And already having had discussions with F45 about me becoming a franchisee. And I signed my agreement, I think 4 to 6 weeks later, and began the whole process of trying to get F45 up and running. So
happened fast then.
Yeah, real fast. Only 3 years. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I can go into that if you want me to. It was a tough journey.
Yeah. So because of trying to find premises, trying to get what you wanted?
Yeah, so I was one of the first, it was like I was one of the first 5 to 10 franchisees in the UK. It was something like that. I was early. And I purchased London, Victoria as a territory area, which I was like, London, Victoria, how many thousands of people come through there every day? Perfect spot. I had a site which was due to open about September 2017, that we were kind of based on our plans. We ended up pulling out just because the landlord seemed to be a bit of a crook. Okay. You know, 1 + 1 wasn't equaling 2 with them, and it just didn't seem right. So that site fell through, and we flirted with various sites over the coming years. I very nearly opened Clapham South. So had a site there. Landlord was ace, really, really good. Was about to sign the lease, and the current tenants, which was a William Hill betting shop, turned around and were like, we're not leaving. And even though their lease was up and all the rest of it, and so that all ended up in court, and so I had to move on and find start again.
Did you ever feel like, I just don't know if I want to do this now?
Yeah, tons.
Right.
Tons. Basically at the time I was living down in Brighton, which is where my family's based. And I was coaching at F45 Brighton. So at this point I'd got my PT qualification and was coaching and loving that aspect. Like I really enjoyed coaching people and helping that. That was the whole point of getting into it. So that was nice. But then it was like trying to find the sites and trying to work on that aspect of things. I mean, for 3 years, it felt like I worked in property. Right. And because it was like conducting site visits, or then when we were working on sites, it was going through like change of use applications or planning applications. It was doing all those kind of other legal bits and bobs that accompany taking on a commercial property, which, you know, you just have to learn. And there's so much red tape in the UK. And so it was just a nightmare trying to like sort it all out.
So is it different in like if you were doing one in Australia?
Yeah. So Australia and the US especially are two good examples. Like their history compared to the UK, or their modern history is like infantile compared to the UK, right? So, you know, Great Britain, or however you want to say it, like our history goes back centuries. Like America is a 200-year-old country, modern America. So they just don't have like law and legislation that existed in the UK like 200 years, you know, well, sorry, even more than that, like 400 or 500 years ago, that obviously just still has a part to play in modern day society. And so things like application use for a site that you have to go through your council and stuff like that, like it's just the processes and the systems in like the US and Australia are so much more simple. And so, you know, you can get a site open in like 3-4 months, whereas like, you know, here
it took you that long.
It like if you I think the quickest I've ever heard someone opening a site in the UK it was something like 10-11 months,
right?
You know, so and that's like normally you're looking a year plus realistically once you've gone, and it like your legals, the legal side of getting a property can be at best is a couple of months, if not more like 3 to 6.
Headache.
That's one word for it.
In a nice way.
Exactly. So I mean, it's one of those things you just got to be consistent.
Keep going.
Yeah, you know, I've known people that have said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do an F45," and they got as far as even, you know, I know a couple of people that got as far as buying a franchise and thinking that they were going to be up and running. And again, I advise everyone. I'm like, it takes longer than you think. Like, you know, people are like, yeah, I'll be up and running in like a year, and I'm like, you might be. But it's unlikely, like, so just be prepared for that. And, you know, I think you've really got to have a level of persistence and drive to get something like that open.
Patience
Patience is a virtue. Yeah, exactly.
So obviously then you found the site South Wimbledon.
Yep.
And F45 South Wimbledon was born.
It was, yeah. F45 Wow.
F45 Wow. Yeah. Wombles of Wimbledon. Come on
Indeed.
to that. And of course, also like the most important thing, you met me.
That's right. Yeah. Who'd have thought that fateful interview in Costa Coffee would lead us down this road?
I know, look where we are now. So then obviously got it all up and running, and obviously I was with you from day one.
You were.
And it was amazing. With this it was unreal. We had the most amazing time. It was. And then after everything you've just said.
Yeah, so as you well know, 6 weeks and we shut the doors down. So February the 1st, 2020, we opened.
Yep.
6 weeks later, Boris Johnson closed everything up, and that was that. So.
And it was quite quickly from what I can remember. It was done, bam, shut down.
It was like one day you're open and no one knows what's going on, and then the next, everything's gone, shut down, stay indoors.
Yeah.
It was an interesting time for everyone, but with a new business like that, it was possibly the worst start we could have had.
Yeah.
You know, it would have almost been better if we hadn't been open in some senses, if we hadn't had that 6 weeks. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, you know.
What must have you been feeling at the time? Because I again, going back, everything had to change quickly. We had to get onto online as quickly as possible. There was, I suppose in some ways you probably didn't have time to think, but then.
No, I mean, I think, as everyone will know from that time, like, it was just a bit like, oh shit, you know, what does this mean? Like, you know, I think initially it was a case of like disbelief at what was going on in the world.
Yeah.
You know, no one really understanding what it means, and like some people really worried, some people not. Like, you know, a level of excitement, I think, as well. Like, this is something really different. This is something like, what does this mean? Like, is it the apocalypse or something? You know, I mean, that's obviously a bit ridiculous, but like, you know, I think if I try and cast my mind back to it, I don't really know what I was thinking, other than, oh shit, like, you know, what does this mean for the business? Like, we'd lost a lot of money because it took 3 years to try and get the doors open.
Yeah.
So, and having now got the doors open, started taking money, started building a membership base and a community, to then literally just have that like the carpet yanked from underneath your feet was a bit like, right, what does that mean? Like, I've signed a commercial lease. I've got debt in terms of finance to start up a business. I've got all these responsibilities. Like, I've just created and hired a team and all the rest of it. There's all this responsibility you've now got. And at the end of the day, I was a new business owner, trying to work things out.
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone was trying to work things out at that point. And so, yeah, I think it was difficult to know what to think.
I think what was good was you had such a great team.
Yeah.
That kind of helped you.
Bigging yourself up there, Jill.
I'm just spooning out there. No, but I think the team we had at that time was, as you say, everybody was in the unknown. But I think credit to you, you did do an amazing job through COVID.
Yeah.
I think, you transformed it onto online. We would be getting up in our own houses.
Yeah.
Keeping it, because obviously we'd only, I would say, just getting to know the members.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's the point, wasn't it? We were building that community. We were off to a
which
roaring
something you're
start.
very big on, about the community side.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's everything with something
Yeah.
like an F45. It's a space for everyone, no matter your starting position, what you look like, think, whatever. But yeah, so we were starting to work on that, and we were doing a good job, all things considered. And then it's just gone. And so you're right. Yeah, we did transition onto the online stuff, as did basically everyone in our industry. But it was, what does that look like? How do you work out with 10, 15, 20, 30 people on the screen, with all in their own houses or whatever? Like, it was just, well, it was a clusterfuck, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like,
it really was. What was you thinking? I mean, I imagine half the nation was thinking the same.
Yeah.
But for you specifically, you've just worked all this. You've literally got to the dream that you've worked hard for,
Yep.
and then it's just taken away from you.
I think, it was just like, oh shit, what do we do? Everyone was trying to work it out, right? It was like this weird, well, for me, I had this weird thing of like, it was almost like a level of excitement of like, oh wow, this is something big. Like, this is something that's going to be talked about by, and learnt about in history.
Yeah.
Like, we're living a historical event, which I don't know, I had this weird fascination with, and kind of being like, is this the apocalypse? Is this like, what's going on here? Like, it was all like really weird and wonderful. So there was that side of it that was like new and interesting, shall we say, for lack of a better phrase. But then there was this other side of like, crap, I've got a business which has already lost a ton of money because it's taken us 3 years to get open. And now I've signed a commercial lease, which is 10-year lease. I've got financial commitments from the perspective of debt in a business, got staff, got to pay my bills. And that was worrying, because it was just like, what the hell do we do? Like, how does this work? We're not open. We're a gym. We rely on people coming through our door and paying us money to use those services and those facilities. Like, how the hell are we going to make money, right?
How did that time, I know a lot of people were probably not in a very well mental state, but how did that affect you mentally?
Good days and bad days, I think. Like, I mean, I don't know. It was an interesting one because part of me was like, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, the landlord can't chase me for money because the whole flipping country shut down. I was lucky that F45 stopped taking fees. And they kind of supported the network in that way, which was good because again, like, if they had just turned around and been like, tough, you've got a franchise agreement, you've got to pay us, like, again, we would have fallen through the floor. Certainly initially, I think it was a bit more like, oh, well, we just don't know what the situation is. And so it is what it is. Let's see what happens. But then I think, once that first lockdown was several months, right? And so I think once we were like 6 weeks into that lockdown, it was a bit like, okay, well, where are we at? What's going on here? Some of the finance, we had like asset finance for portions of the build and stuff. And they were just banker wankers. They were just like, you got to pay. Ugh. And I was like, well, how? How do you expect? I'm not taking any money. They were like, not our problem. Pay. And so all of a sudden you've got these, large sums of money that you are owing and you've got no revenue stream. You've got no source of income. And so that was difficult because, we were treading a fine and dangerous line where everything was just going to fall apart. And not only was I going to lose all my money, but I was going to owe a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there were stressful times.
So obviously I can remember we moved into the online workouts,
Yep.
which we all got up at the crack of dawn. We all got to see each other's houses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And pets. And we got through that.
Yep. We muddled our way through that, didn't we?
Yeah. And then we reopened. Your studio was back open again.
Yeah. Our studio, Jill.
Outside. I'm trying to be diplomatic. Yeah, our studio.
Yeah, I mean, again, like we had that you're open, you're closed, you're open, you're closed, you're open, you're closed situation going through those various lockdowns. And I think everyone will know, whatever your industry, it was trying to work out what the world looked like now. And how, especially like, I think it was different for some businesses in the sense that like if you sit at a desk normally looking at a computer screen, you could probably still do your job. I mean, obviously that's a broad stroke statement, but like by and large, there was a lot of people that could probably still work. We relied on physical people in a physical site using physical bits of kit. And therefore, I think we encountered a lot of issues that certain industries, wouldn't have. Yeah. Obviously, certain industries did. But that was just interesting because it was like, especially when the government was trying to work out what was allowed, what wasn't allowed, and what that looked like for every different industry, which I can only imagine how difficult that must have been. Like, and things were changing, sometimes almost on like a weekly basis. It's like, well, are we allowed to do that? Are we not allowed to do that? Or what we were allowed to do last week, we're not allowed to do this week. And so it was constant, like, as a new business, it was really difficult to like find our feet because we were constantly having to adapt and change processes and systems and work out what the hell it was that we could do, whilst as a new business trying to build our community, build our clientele, build our membership base. It was a lot.
And I think as well, we had to do a different type of training. Everyone had to come in one way. We had to have these little boxes. Yeah. So we had to adapt to that.
Exactly.
And, and going out in a different way. Yeah. And so everything that we trained to teach as coaches, we couldn't do.
Well, that's it. I mean, like our ethos, as you know, has always been coaching.
Yeah.
We're coaches, we're not cheerleaders. And so for a team of people that is used to getting up close and personal with our members so that we can coach and so that we can ensure that they're moving correctly and all the rest of it, all of a sudden now you're not allowed to be near people, and I think, we had to, it was adapt or die, right?
Yeah.
It was how can we deliver a product and deliver a service? I mean, let's be honest, people were just happy to be outside and get out of their house. I think, so in some senses it wasn't too bad, but in other senses, like we still had a job to do and we still had to make sure that we did that job from a client point of view, but also from a government and legality point of view.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it was an intriguing way of like coaching in a different way. I think it made us all better as a team in a weird way.
Yeah, yeah. We had to be chameleons, right? We had to adapt to that.
Well, I'm easy to do it. Some of it comes naturally.
Yeah, I think, it's when you've got that kind of, it forces you to have to look at things in a different way. Yeah. And I think as a coach and as a PT, that's really important because you can't just paint everyone with the same brush. Every client is an individual. And I think that's super important that you approach them as an individual. Yeah. Any PT that just is super, super dogmatic, you're potentially leaving things off the table, basically. So.
I think what's great about you, as you say, is it is a business at the end of the day. You need to get an income in.
Yep.
But you have always been very big on members that come through the door. They are the most important thing.
Yeah.
And it's not just they're there just to pay a membership fee. It's to us to look after them, to help them go, almost everyone has gone through the fitness journey with some members more so than others, because members, sit on the desk and they come up to you and ask, loads of questions. And I think was that a big thing for you, that it had to be, regardless of what was going on?
My vision was always to create an inclusive space, and it's almost a bit cliche to say it, but that's what it was. But that actually had two kind of facets to it. It was the members, but it was the team. Yeah. And arguably the team was the thing that had to come first.
Yeah.
Because without the team, the members weren't going to be looked after. And so it was about making sure that I had a place that, well, I had a team of people that wanted to be there, that felt empowered to do their job, and that felt a part of something. That was always really important. So I always looked at like core values and like, what is it that I want to dispel amongst a team, and make sure that the team buys into that, because you need everyone bought in on a team in order to deliver that product type thing, right? So for me, it was really about making sure that everyone wanted to be within those four walls, and some people like Jill wanted to be there more.
I did with that.
And I think it was just about, if we cemented that team, which I think we did really well. I know that's easy for me to say, and you can tell everyone otherwise, but like I think we were lucky to have a good set of people from the outset. We were lucky to bond as a team, but I think that comes down to like everything that we were all trying to achieve together, and ultimately that fed through to the members, and the members, by and large, seemed to really enjoy it. And we had a lot of people that stayed with us for a long time.
I was literally just about to say, I think that shows it in itself, that the coaches that have stayed for as long as they have indicates, because it is an industry where coaches just flit in and out.
High turnover rate.
And it's not something the studio's had, to be quite honest.
No, we've had a couple of people that only lasted maybe like 6 months. But that's literally like, I can only think of actually one person. Everyone else has been there minimum of a year, which in our industry is pretty good. And actually most people are lasting more like a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's super important, because members don't want to see who's the flavor of the week, like who's in this week coaching me, like who's the new face. They want consistency, and they want, it's an industry where like people will have their favorite coach and their favorite PT, and that's fine, because naturally we gel with other people more than others, and that's not a problem. But you need to make sure that you've got that level of consistency across a business, I think, in order for it to really succeed, and in order to get that buy-in from people, like we said, we always wanted to create a space that people felt comfortable in, no matter their level, like super fit, super unfit, super strong, super weak, super fast, super slow, didn't matter. Like everyone should be welcome within South Wimbledon. If for whatever reason they're not, that'll go to the top of my priority list to find out why.
I think it's something you have done, because I think members will vouch that you've definitely made it a safe place. And I think that's credit to you, it's credit to the coaches. So in all your years in the fitness industry, what things have you seen different? What changes have been made?
I mean, quite a lot. I mean, if we talk about my time from when I was managing the Anytime fitness gyms and stuff, I saw kind of like the boutique industry get big. So that's kind of where F45 sits. It's like these things like Barry's Bootcamp, One Rebel, Soul Cycle, these kind of offerings that are fitness studio based. They've kind of broken away from like the traditional gym routines, body part split, strength training, powerlifting, all those kind of like old school things that people tend to think about when they think about the gym. They think about Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? He's like probably the most iconic face. He was like Mr. Olympia, massive bodybuilder, all the rest of it. So I think the boutique fitness industry exploding was a big thing. And that was around sort of, for me anyway, anywhere from 2012 through to COVID. And then COVID saw all sorts of changes. It's the classic like Peloton stocks like going through the roof, right? Because everyone was inside.
Yeah.
Like you could like trying to get hold of a dumbbell was like trying to get hold of a gold bar. Do you know what I mean? And like they were just going for like ridiculous sums of money and all the rest of it. So people started looking at home workouts, but I think that was a spike that dropped off quite quickly. And I remember some people saying how like Peloton was now going to like rule the world and all the rest of it. And obviously they're still doing well, but I don't think they ever exploded nearly to the degree that some people reckoned that they were going to. I remember listening to loads of people that I admire within the fitness industry, and they were all saying, nah, everyone's going to come back. Brick and mortar will always have a place with gyms. People want to be in a physical place, a physical gym.
Yeah.
I think that is something that will always live on to a degree. Like the regular standard gyms are never going to go anywhere, but you will get these like bits of interest. I think things like F45, like group-led classes, if they're done right, they will always be around. And again, like CrossFit was kind of like, I guess, the first almost in that sense. And CrossFit did a lot for the industry. Certainly in terms of getting people to lift barbells and do these kind of like Olympic lifting movements. And what CrossFit did really well was getting women involved, which is great. You know, like go back however many decades and it was like women would run. That's what women do, and men lift weights, which is just bullshit. Like, you know, there's plenty of fucking women that are way stronger than me. And I think that's great. I think that what we're seeing now is there's a lot going into like longevity and recovery, and like biohacking and stuff like that, you know, and I think a lot of it is voodoo science and a lot of it is someone trying to overcomplicate things to sell you something. People are always looking for like the magic cure and the reason why they can't achieve the goals that they want to achieve. And realistically, it's move more, it's eat less, and it's eat better. Fitness isn't hard. The application is hard. People get caught up and bent around the axle thinking that there's something that they're not doing right. Whereas actually, to be completely blunt and honest, in modern day, especially in modern day Western society, we're fucking lazy. Yeah. People just don't move. You get up, you get on a train, you go to work, you sit at a desk all day, you get back on the train, you come home and you sit in front of the TV. Like, again, broad stroke statement, but most people just don't move like they used to. Like, as we, you know, when we're kids, or certainly when I grew up, like, I was running around outside all day. I was skateboarding, or I was playing football, or I was doing all these different things. And, you know, then I played team sports growing up and all the rest of it. I was lucky that I got into fitness and I carried that kind of element of movement and exercise throughout my entire life. I've been training consistently for, God, like 17 years now. Like, and that means pretty much 3 workouts a week, every week for the last 17 years. But I'm a loser and I like that. So, but a lot of people that I see, especially like members coming to us, like we get people in their like late 20s or early 30s, and essentially what's happened is they go to uni and they discover alcohol and partying if they haven't already, and certainly they enjoy themselves at uni and they kind of moving around, they probably play some sports and all the rest of it, and they come out of uni and they join the working world, and all of a sudden they've got these constraints on their life that they never used to have at university, and that typically is your 9-to-5 job. And all of a sudden everything else kind of goes out the window, but you're still in your early mid-20s and you're enjoying yourself. So you're going out at the weekends, you're partying, you're enjoying yourself, and yeah, you should do that 100%. But like everything else trails off. Some people might carry on netball, football, insert sport / activity, but a lot don't. But then they get to their late 20s, early 30s, and they've inevitably put on weight. They're probably not nearly as healthy as they were almost a decade ago, and they're like, oh crap, I need to do something about this. So, you know, I think you're going to get, well, leading back to your question, love a tangent, you know this drill. In terms of what people, trends, I think the next big thing that people are going to really start to see advocating more and more by more and more people is strength.
I was just about to say. And
you know what we've always advocated at F45 ever since we opened.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the cardio and the high intensity stuff is fun, and you feel really good because you've got a good sweat on. But sweat and the number of calories you've burned is not indicative and is not a good way to measure exercise success or workout success. You know, it shouldn't be defined by how sweaty can I get. I'm sweating sitting down. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
it's hot today.
Yeah. It doesn't. Like, I hate it when people are like, oh, I only burnt 220 calories. So?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I don't give a damn. I don't care if you only burnt 10 calories. I care whether you moved well and whether you progressed yourself within that session. And I think strength training, there's just so much research coming out about how if you want to extend your life, if you want to live a better quality life, if you want to stave off all-cause mortality and all these diseases and horrible things, get fucking strong. Pick heavy shit up, put it back down.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's plain and simple. And that is like 2 or 3 times a week. That's not 5-6 days a week for 2 hours at a time. It's a solid 45 minutes to an hour session, 3 times a week, done.
I think that's where some people get confused, don't they? They've got to be doing in the gym 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah. And it's just so unnecessary. Like, and actually, you know, as you know, and as we have always tried to profess to people, there is a point of diminishing return with exercise. Too much is too much.
Yeah.
And it's not about how much can my body handle. It's about what is the optimum dose. What's the right amount in order to elicit the results that I'm looking for. And that's what so many people get wrong. And the boutique industry is great because we've created environments that people want to be a part of. But then you've got to almost, like, as you know, like we do this at F45, we sometimes discourage people from coming because it's like, you're doing too much.
Yeah.
You're going to injure yourself. It might not be now, might not be next week. It might be in 5 years' time, but you're going to hurt yourself eventually. And actually, you know, exercise is great. It's a method of therapy for me and for many people. But actually, you know, there's so much you can do in life, and taking away a workout or two a week and filling it with something else was probably a really fucking good idea for a lot of people. And I think strength training is great because you can't do too much, and it does bulletproof your body. You know, I like to give my dad as an example, and I think you've heard me say this before, but we'll say it. So my dad is 6'8", legally classified a giant. He's a lanky bugger. Now, he's a beanpole. I love my dad. He's great. But, you know, he's not a big muscular dude. He's not thick set or whatever. He's fit. Like, he walks. And when I say he walks, like, he'll walk 30K in a morning because he loves it. But as he ages, give him another decade or two, he's 6'8". If he hasn't got muscle and stability and control, getting on and off a toilet is going to be a difficult task for him because the man's got so bloody far to go. Yeah. And so, you know, that's a silly example, obviously, but that's an example of where someone needs good mobility, good strength, good coordination, good balance, all these things that come from strength training. Yeah. And so hopefully your GP, the NHS, the country in general will catch up with this, because so many of people's ailments and issues could be cured if they just ate a little bit better, moved a little bit more, and got us a smidge stronger. And I think one of the things I've heard and I've listened and I kind of lean into is actually we don't necessarily have an obesity problem. We have a strength problem, and people aren't strong. And that's actually almost a bigger issue than people being overweight, because again, all these studies are coming out that if you've got a lower, like if your muscle mass from a percentage perspective is too low, you are more likely to be sick and ill, especially as you age. Yeah. So I think that's what we'll see. We'll see a lot more people actively looking to get strong.
Yeah, and do you think, because you've made it so popular in the studio for strength, and the other thing you've made a big thing as well, which some people tend to not do, myself included, is the recovery, the mobility, that kind of stuff, to incorporate that into their lifestyle as well. Yeah.
The body was made to move. It's been designed that way for, you know, however many thousands of years. If your body hurts because of a movement, unless there's an external factor that has caused that, let's say a car crash, right? There's a problem and your body's telling you through pain. Pain is your body's way of telling you something ain't right, don't do that. Yeah. And yet we love to mask it. Let's pop some Nurofen, let's pop some paracetamol or whatever. Or, oh, it's fine, I'll just work through this session. It's literally the worst fucking thing you can do. And it pains me so much to see people being like, you know, I'll like look at someone and I can see dysfunction in their movement, and I'll go up to them and I'll ask, and they're like, oh yeah, my knee's hurting. And I'm like, well, why are you doing it then? They're like, oh, just get on with it. And I'm like, well, no, don't. And it's like, use me, I'm here to help. Like, let's sort out the problem. Let's find out the root cause. And I think that's, you know, you've heard me say this so many times. It's like, source of pain isn't the origin of the problem. And, you know, this is when we're now blending into like sports therapy and physio and all those kind of practices and things. But if you've got a problem and a pain and an issue, go get it fucking looked at. You've got one body. Like, we love to invest money and piss money up the wall, quite literally, at the weekends and stuff like that, or buy things, you know, for our own enjoyment. But
get your nails done.
Get your nails, eyelashes, all the other things.
Who does that?
But it's like, people are so hesitant to go and spend. They're like, oh no, I don't want to spend 60 quid on a physio appointment. Yeah. Well, why? You've just told me you've been suffering from chronic back pain for the last, 2 years. Like, why? Why are you suffering from that? And actually, I'm a big believer of and again, unless we're talking about something acute like a car accident or whatever, go and find the right person. And again, there's good practitioners and bad practitioners when it comes to sports therapists and physios, but find the right person to solve the problem, get the expert advice and fix it. Like, who wants to live in pain? I know I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know, I'm a fitness professional, quote unquote, and yet I see a physio like on a regular basis if I know I need to.
Yeah.
Like, I've actually got an appointment booked next week. Like, you know, because I need to go and see them about something.
And you're very good at you're doing your mobility and stretching.
Well, there you go. And I do all that work.
You do.
Yeah, and you know, again, I'm only learning. Like, a PT has a lane, just like a GP has a lane, just like a physio has a lane, and it's about understanding what your lane is and not moving outside of that, and working with people, you know, synergistically with people to help, say, members on clients, as an example. So I would work with a physio to help a member who's got a problem. So yeah, like, I spend a lot of time, as you know, on my mobility.
I do too.
Yeah, lol. Because I hit my early 30s, and all of a sudden I couldn't move like I could in my 20s. And I was getting aches and pains, and I was like, well, this isn't right. I'm only flipping 30 years old. Like, you know, and now I'm in my mid 30s, and, you know, all my workouts are preceded by minimum 10 minutes of warm up and prep work.
Yep.
And even then I could probably double that. And it all that means, though, is, yeah, it's not boring, it's not exciting, it's not the sexy fitness stuff, but actually it means that I'll be able to do this a lot longer than most people.
Yeah. And move better.
And move better. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Also, I want to tap into a little bit, I know we were going to mention it, is the other changes of menopause in fitness.
Yep.
Something that you've probably experienced firsthand with me.
No comment.
So obviously it's becoming a lot more popular now, as in more open and spoken about,
which is great.
And because a lot of women shy away from exercise or go cardio bunny, and strength is huge.
Yeah.
I know obviously in the last year when we were working together, you probably experienced quite a bit of it with me. And I mean, credit to you. It's very hard, I would say, and I'm sure people listening, especially women, to have a male boss and then going through something like the menopause. But I think you were really understanding. And I think what was great about it was that, you know, there were times where you would say, once everybody's gone, okay, let it out. What's going on? And I had that safe environment. And I don't think there's many places or jobs where women can, you know, apart from my husband, it's not a really thing that because you feel embarrassed about yourself as it is. So I think having to deal with me, which was a lot of tears.
Yep.
You could say the least.
Yep.
But I think obviously shedding a light on it for you in the sense of how my training had to change a little bit, or I couldn't train in the same way. And I hope that, or if you can tell me that, hopefully that now women coming into the studio with that similar situation that I'm in, that it gives you a better understanding.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's a few things we can discuss there, right? So I think the first thing was, like, it leads back to that creating of the team and the culture and the environment.
Yeah.
And, like, it doesn't matter what you're going through. Like, I want to be there for people. I want to help them. Again, it all sounds really cliche, but it just is what it is.
Well, it helped.
Yeah, well, there you go. And that's it. And, like, you know how many times we had conversations for hours. No, but, like, you know, jokes aside, like, I think, you know, I got into the fitness industry because I want to help people.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely do. And I think, you know, you going through that period of your life, like, it's something that every woman's going to go through.
Yeah.
And it's that classic thing of, it's like, it's been taboo to talk about it. Well, why? Like, it's like, you know, sex education at school or whatever. Like, these things need to be spoken about and understood more, and actually from both sides. Because yes, women go through the biological and physical changes of menopause, but a lot of those a lot of those women will have men in their life.
Yeah. And
the men are going to experience that journey as well. And so I think it's super important that a man understands and doesn't have flippant throwaway comments like, oh, it's your time of the month, or like, oh, it's your hormones, or, you know, something idiotic like that. Like, yeah, it is your fucking hormones, but we can't fucking relate to that.
Yeah.
And I think, it's trying to understand and have that level of, it's not really the right word, but like acceptance that basically what you're going through is a bag of shit.
Yeah.
And
it really is.
We can, and I think you need to, people, especially if we're talking about a relationship, big up Rich,
Patient.
yeah, exactly. Is like, if you're in a relationship with someone, then, you're both going to have to navigate that journey together.
Yeah.
And, as a man, I think you've got to be really open to that experience and trying to understand it as best you can.
Yeah.
Because guys, we're fucking lucky with the lot that we've been given.
You certainly are.
Exactly. Periods, menopause, childbirth, the whole lot. We get it fucking easy.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that for me, though, that it leads back to just wanting to help people, regardless of who you are, where you're from, what you think, what you feel. Are you a nice person? Great. Come in, we'll help you, and we'll bend over backwards. And that obviously extended to you. So, I think we as a team are closer than you might find in a general office.
Yeah.
For better or for worse.
Yeah.
We have discussions and things that, if some HR teams sort of like were a fly on the wall, they'd probably be having kittens. But actually it makes us stronger.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that bleeds into the members. And certainly I would say to anyone that is a member who might be listening to this and maybe has an issue, whether it's menopause or whether it's stress or anxiety or whatever, and wants to talk to some of the team, 100% do it. Or if you're someone in the local area and you want to come and find a room of people that are like-minded and that are going to be welcoming no matter what, like, our doors are open to anyone.
I agree.
And I think that was something that was something that you helped build, and you were integral to that. I know that there's plenty of members over the years that have spoken to you about deep, dark secrets, so to speak.
Yeah.
And not me, because they were comfortable with you.
Yeah.
It goes back to that who's your favourite PT type scenario.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's something I'm really proud of, that, we built as a team. And it's certainly something that I'll continue forever with, as long as I've got that gym and I've got a team and all the rest of it. And I know the team that's there now, that it's the same. Members are staying after and having chats and discussing some pretty in-depth topics.
Yeah.
And again, I'm proud that they feel safe enough to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really quite special.
Yeah, it really is. So, I hope people hear this and they do think, members or people looking to come into the studio, that think, actually, this will help me massively.
Yeah.
Because that's a big thing.
I think one thing I will say about the fitness industry is if you are looking for a safe space, if you're looking for a place where you can improve your health and fitness, like, if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't feel safe within your gym, move fucking gyms. Because unfortunately the gym industry does get a bad rep, and the classic roid munching, like whatever, there are dickheads out there.
Yeah.
But they're not everywhere. And, you just need to find the right place for you that will help you, because fitness should be empowering, and it should like blend into so many other aspects of your life because you feel fitter and stronger.
Yeah.
It's the classic, I get the endorphins. Yeah, you do. And like people say that because it's true and because it does help other facets of your life. And so you just need to find the right space for you. If that's South Wimbledon, amazing. We'll be here for you. If it's somewhere else, great.
Love it. I hope it does reach out to some people. I hope it does. Moving on, you love a challenge.
Love a challenge.
I taught you 4.5 years of a challenge. I left, and yet I'm still in your life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Got rid of you finally, and you're still here.
Still around. So you love a challenge. I taught you how to do the pull-ups.
Yeah.
Which everybody knows.
Yeah.
So how's that going?
Yeah, great. just about hanging on in there, Jill.
What's the hardest challenge you've done to date?
As in physical?
Yeah, for yourself personally. You've done a few. Yeah,
I've done a few. There's a couple that I could talk about. I think one I did when I was in Oz, which was I had an amateur level MMA fight, mixed martial arts. That was 6 months of training. It took me out my comfort zone big time because getting punched in the face isn't fun. That taught me a lot about myself, and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, it culminated in a fight at the end. MMA fights. So that was really good. I won, so that made it better. But that I mean, again, I could talk for hours about that, but it was just that was a really cool challenge in a certain way. I think one of the challenges that's been most physically exhausting that I've done was David Goggins 4 in 48.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This
So
was unreal.
this is run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So it's basically 6 kilometers every 4 hours. So I started on a Friday evening at like 6 p.m. So yeah, I was running 6, 10, 2 a.m., 6 a.m., 10, and then it just kept going. It was something like that. And like 6K, like some people are probably thinking 6K, sack that's ages, but some people are probably thinking, oh, it's only 6K. But it's the repetitiveness of it.
Yeah.
And especially once you get into the second night where you've not gotten a lot of sleep, you're running, depending on how fast you run. I mean, I'm not a bad runner, but I'm not an amazing runner. I was running it in about 30 minutes, at a steady pace. So you finish, but then you got 3.5 hours and you're going again. So it's then trying to recover. And we also live on the top floor of a of a building, which is 3 flights of stairs. So that was interesting. So yeah, that was like, that took a toll on my body, because
The early hours ones, were they?
I can get up if I need to get up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that's like the sleep deprivation wasn't so much of an issue. It was just my joints and my back, and like actually towards the end, I'm a heavy individual. I'm 90 plus kilos. I'm not built to do lots and lots of running. And by the time I got to like the last run, I was hobbling, just for me. And I probably didn't do enough practice leading up to it. And I'm sure if I was to do it again and sort of train properly, I could do it more comfortably. But certainly at that time, like, I remember the last run, having to go out for that and being pretty like, I wasn't defeated, but I was deflated.
Yeah.
And it was like, I picked the simplest route, which was basically like running a block around my house. And I just had to repeatedly run it. Like just trying to, and when I say run, I wasn't running at this point.
Really?
I was plodding, just because my body, my ankles, my knees, they just didn't feel great.
What next challenge would you like to do? Is there something that you can see? I want to do that.
I don't know. Do you know what? I don't actually have my eyes set on anything in particular at this point in time. I've just got other things going on in life in terms of business and family, and buying a house at the moment, for example, which is kind of taking up all my time. We just did High Rocks, which is great, but I've done High Rocks before.
Yeah.
So I'd like to do something big again. I just don't quite know what that is yet.
So the busy life that you lead, as you've told us all,
Yeah.
how do you switch off?
So I am a good little geek, and I like to play Xbox. Much to my wife's dismay. No, I mean, to be fair, that is actually partly true. It depends. It depends. Like, I think I do a lot to kind of try and recover in general. If we're talking specifically about the evening, then it will be like making sure that I'm not doing any work minimum an hour before bed, but like ideally more like 2 or 3. I like to kind of like turn lights down in the evening. At the moment, because the weather's nice, me and Safi love to go out for like a walk after dinner, just around the block and stuff like that. I'm trying to get back into the habit of reading more, because I got into a bad habit of watching Netflix on my phone type vibe in bed and things. So, again, I quite like watching things, which is really not a good thing to do. But for me, I would watch something stupid that's kind of like mind numbing. Like if I want to relax on a day, I like to watch a film or something, and a film that's not too in depth, because basically I can disengage brain and just let it wash over me. And for me, I find that will unwind me. It's not necessarily the best advice, but it is just what I do.
Yeah, and it works.
It works for me. It works for me. So yeah, it's in the evening. That's typically what I'll kind of try and do.
Well, I suppose to end this on, the important question is, how long before the studio becomes mine?
There is a very, 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 very very, very, very long list of people who will get it before Jill does.
But roughly how long?
It's more lifetimes than you can count, Jill.
And do I still have to give the keys back?
You can keep the keys for now.
Well, thanks, boss, for coming on.
My pleasure, Jill.
Still in your life.
Yep, that ain't changing.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere for a while. Thank you, letting us know all about F45 South
pleasure.
Wimbledon. Anyone listening out there want to give it a try?
Yep.
Where do they go to?
Come down to South Wimbledon.
Can they go online?
We are online, yeah. So easiest thing is Google F45 South Wimbledon.
Perfect.
And you'll be able to find us. We're opposite the tube station.
Perfect. Well, thank you.
Thanks.
Enjoy your Xbox.
I'll enjoy my Xbox.
Thanks.